Folks, welcome to the session with my friend Edge Wade, who's a very experienced birder. I'm excited to hear from her about field guides. So Edge, please take it away.
Good afternoon. I'm Edge Wade. I'm in Columbia, Missouri. I am a member of the Missouri Birding Society, and we're ready to go as soon as I share screen. The purpose of this presentation is to help you find the right field guide for you. And as a beginning, the modern field guide as we know it was the invention of Roger Tory Peterson, who came up with a way as an artist and a birder to depict birds in a way that your eye can pick out the important aspects of a bird to distinguish it from any other species while it's still in the tree or the bush, so that we don't have to shoot it to figure out what it is. You may already have a field guide and you may love it. If so, and if it's more 10 years old or more, give it a revered place on the bookshelf and do yourself a favor and get a new one, because we have now learned more about birds, so there's more information in a current bird guide. We now recognize more species than what was known when your bird guide was published. And bird occurrence, that is where birds appear, is changing. There are now more guides out there, so many guides that to narrow it, you'll find that there are lots of supplements like finding birds in different states. But what you need is one guide for a supplement that is good for Missouri is Enjoying Missouri's Birds, put out by the Department of Conservation. It's free. It's a 42-page booklet, recently revised by our state ornithologist in March of this year. And it says it's a beginning guide, but it's good for anyone. I keep a copy in the house and one at home in the car. And at the end of this presentation, I'll put up a slide to show you how to get your free copy. It's got great things in it, tools for how to bird, resources for things to find to help you, what to notice about birds, the parts of the birds to help you separate out this bird from that family, features to note, other clues to identification, things to help you determine what bird you're looking at, habitats, illustrations of what different kinds of habitats are, and an explanation of what to find in what birds to expect in those habitats. It has, the heart of it is bar graphs that show the species going down the left column, the months across the top, and color-coded bars. This one is blue because it's all in wetland species. Additional ones show different colors, color-coded by habitat type. The height of the bar shows how common the bird is. If there's a month and there's no bar there, don't bother to look for that species in that month. It isn't there. There are is a section on where to bird, how to find, where places to go birding, and links to find those. How to, if you're staying home, how to attract birds to your home. And an important section, the basics of birds' behavior, something that beginners often overlook. Where the bird is habitat-wise and what it's doing, how it's behaving, are often more important to bird ID than its color. And there's a page on birding organizations, how to meet up with other people with similar interests so that you can share your bird information and maybe even go on a field trip with an experienced birder, which I find is the best way to learn about birds. There are a lot of birds books out there, so many, we need to sort through them. The Field Guide to Knitted Birds might be a fun read, but it's not going to be a good way to show us what we're looking at out the window. There are other books that aren't as good either, that might be more subtly not good. This is one of them. This Birds of Missouri is a book that is found on nearly every checkout counter of every bird store in the state. It is not a good book because it is not, the birds in here are not unique to Missouri. It's not about Missouri birds. Most of the birds you see out your window will be in it, but not all. So you can't find things in it, and it's frustrating. And it's a photo guide. It's not unique, it's photos. Remember, the secret to Peterson's work was illustrations showing birds in a way of what your eye is attracted to and what separates them out from other species, not always in the best light and not what the camera sees, but what your eye sees, with similar species depicted on the same page. Peterson's method was very simple. Highlight the things that are different. And he pointed to them with arrows and talked about the unique things in his descriptions on the facing page. For instance, with wood thrush, he says that it's got a rufous cap and big spots and points to them and points to the other aspects of different birds on that page to show the differences. That was from Peterson's second edition. Current books now look something like this. Similar species on the same page, an expanded section of descriptions, and range maps. And why that's important. Let's say you see a black and white bird like the one on this page, and you say, oh, that bird out there in December outside my window must be a black phoebe. It looks like it. And then you look at that range map and, oh, they don't occur in Missouri at any time, much less December. That tells you, let's look a little farther, and you may come across dark-eyed junco. Every good book has the range maps on facing pages and a key. They're color-coded so that you know what that bird is doing and when it's expected in your area. Good field guides have a quick find index of some sort, usually on the inside cover. So if you say, I think that's some kind of thrush, you can quickly find that thrush section, go to it, and compare what you're seeing with what you're seeing in the book. Not all birders agree on all things. One thing that thousands of experienced birders agree on is that these are the 5 best current guides out there. And it should bring up one point. Regardless of which one you pick, the best way to pick it for you is to go into a bird store or a bookstore and compare these one to another, hold them in your hands and check them out, look them over, look at similar sections and see which one you like best. Much better than by getting it online and then being stuck with the one you get. We're going to look at each of these in pros and cons of each. Peterson is no longer with us, but his guide series is. And if you'll note, there's more than one option. Shown here is North America and Eastern and Central North America. There's also a Western guide. What you and I think of as East is not what is East when we're talking about birds. For birds, Eastern species is everything from the coast of Maine and Virginia and Florida all the way to the Rocky Mountains in central Colorado. We don't think of Western Kansas as East, but for bird species, it is, because the Rocky Mountains are what separate Eastern birds from Western birds. They couldn't connect up because of the mountains. So if you're in Missouri or Minnesota or Illinois or Iowa or Kansas, you can go with an Eastern bird book and every bird you'll see is going to be in that book. But if you decide to go take that trip down Route 66 and go to California or Southeast Arizona or the coast of Oregon, you're going to see birds there that aren't in your book. So go ahead and buy a bird guide book to all of North America. So you only need one book when you travel or if you're at home. Peterson's a good one. Sibley is recommended by a lot of experienced birders. I don't recommend it for beginning and intermediate birders, and I don't carry it into the field. It's too busy. There's not enough choices on one page, not enough comparisons. It's just not easy to use in the field. This is the first edition on the left, second edition on the right. It's just not a good field guide for most people to use in the field. This one breaks my rule about illustrations over photographs, only because it's a hybrid. Ken Kaufman put together Birds of North America and used digitally computerized enhanced photographs to do what an illustrator does when they draw a bird. And you added to that the pinpoints that point to the different features that separate birds out that your eye will see. The drawback of Kaufman is it's out of date. It hasn't been updated. The others are more current. Stokes is a good photo guide, but has all the drawbacks of photo guides. It just isn't easy to pick out what you're looking at in the field. My choice, personally, is the National Geographic Field Guide to the Birds of North America, 7th edition. And that 7th edition is important. There are 6 old ones out there. This one is the current. It also comes in an Eastern and a Western version. But again, go with the one that you only need one book, whether you're home or you're traveling. This is the book that it replaced. This is the 6th edition, my copy, and it illustrates a couple things. Use your book. Don't relegate it to the shelf. It's a field guide. It's meant to be used. It's okay to write in it. You can even keep your life list in it, but if you do, and you lose the book off the top of the car when you drive away from it, like I did, you won't have it, your life list. So keep a copy of your life list. Okay, we lost that last slide. There we go.
That's perfect.
All right.
Perfect, Edge.
All right, this shows you how to get enjoying Missouri's birds, which even if you're not in Missouri, there are parts of this booklet that you can use, and it's free. And regardless of what book you choose, this is a great supplement to have. Got some questions?
Edge, we have a comment, and I have a comment also, but folks, don't be shy. I know on some of these sessions, people have been shy about asking questions. Please don't. Please go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A or chat. I really appreciate that you're so clear about the photos versus illustrations situation, because when I was a new birder, I would get really, really frustrated because I was trying to learn from a photo book and they often simply didn't match. And so I think it's really important for folks to know that. So I appreciate your clarity on that topic. Sarah suggests viewing the field guides at the public library is also a good way to test drive a field guide. Our taxes pay for our public libraries and we should use them.
Just bear in mind, they may not have the current edition.
Someone says they always learn from you and they have been birding for decades.
I learn from other people. That's why I go on as many field trips with other people as I can.
Let's see. Question here. What did you mean by life list in reference to the field guides?
Oh, a life list is every bird that you have seen in your life, every species, I should say, not every single bird, every species that you have seen. It's a list of all the species of birds you have seen. And you can keep a life list for your backyard or your county or your state or for the United States or whatever. And that's a life list, and you can have all different kinds of variations of it. And lots of people keep a list of all the different kinds of birds they've seen.
What would you suggest for young birders, ages under 12 and then also ages 12 to 18? Good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. And I did not cover that because I only have 15 minutes. But I would say go to a bird store and ask the clerk who is knowledgeable what they would recommend. And for the young, especially for the younger ones, for anybody 12 and up, go with one of these. They can handle it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's see. What supplies do we need on our first birding outing?
A pair of working binoculars, not your granddad's World War II or Korea binoculars. There is a good variety of that, and that's a whole different topic, but binoculars that you have maybe practiced with or can get help with having to focus. If you've got a field guide, take it with you. If not, look at what other people are using. That's another way to compare them. And an inquiring mind. That's all you need.
Edge, do you have any opinion on the phone apps, the phone field guides?
Yes, and I again, with only 15 minutes, I couldn't cover those. I don't have any opinion as to which ones are best. They are varied. If you get the eBird app, Merlin comes with it. Merlin is a good one. Mm-hmm. It's free. Mm-hmm. I think you can get it in ways other than having it with eBird, mm-hmm. but don't depend on that. The apps are great, and I use them, but it's not a good thing to have only an app. You need that book in your hand to get a feel, literally, for what's out there and to see things on the same page together. That's a great learning tool. But Merlin is a good app.
Are there any great birding places? And you do have a little, we're not going to get cut off or anything here, Edge, just so you know. Are there any great birding places you would recommend in mid-Missouri?
Yes. There are a couple of dozen in Boone County alone. That's just my home county. But expanding out to that, there are dozens of great birding places in central Missouri. The best way, one way to find them is to go to Missouri, mobirds.org. That's the Missouri Birding Society site. And across the top is some headers, and finding where to find birds, I think, is the topic. And there's a drop-down menu. You can search it by county or by site name. And there are more than 200 site descriptions of where to bird on that site alone. Also in the Enjoying Missouri's Birds, there's a section that tells you how to find places to bird. But in Boone County alone, there's Eagle Bluffs, Rockbridge State Park, Finger Lake State Park, conservation areas. There are several of different habitats. No one place hits it all.
I just went ahead and put that in the Whova chat, everyone, mobirds.org. Missouri Birding Society website. We have a comment here from Teresa. MDC nature centers sometimes have binoculars that you can use while visiting there. You can't take them with you, of course, but it might be a way to try some out.
Right. Usually those are what I would say is low end, that is less expensive, even on the cheap side. And you don't have to have expensive binoculars to have good binoculars. The birding stores often have some that you can test out, but going to MDC sites or asking a birder, can I look through your binoculars? Most of them are very happy to share and tell you what's good about them and what's bad about them, what they like and what they don't like. You can get a good pair, a usable pair of binoculars for $100, or even better ones between $100 and $200. And if you decide birding's not for you, you can find somebody to sell them to.
Okay, sorry, Edge. I'm looking at like 3 different devices here, but I'm finding more questions. With climate change changing the range of birds, won't the bird guide authors need to update their info soon?
Well, yes, and that's soon is relative. Most of the current ones are showing the changes now, but that's why you need one that's newer than 10 years old. Mm-hmm. So if you get one of the current ones, you're in good shape. The Enjoying Missouri's Birds, those bar graphs reflect very recent changes in bird ranges, and that's one of the reasons that's a great supplement to have, because it does show the changes that we've had in recent years.
Checking a little more here. If anybody else has any more questions, please go ahead and enter them. I believe we're out of questions, Edge.
Look it up.
So thank you very much, my friend. And thank you folks for joining us. I'm glad that you could join us. Edge is very knowledgeable, so I appreciate this session very much, Edge.
Well, see you all out in the field, out looking at great birds all around the state. Enjoy.
Very good.